YouTube, it's Bethany from Madeline Jean Antiques and Restoration. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I'm going to repurpose a Singer sewing machine base into a pretty cool wine station. Now, I've done a couple of these in the past and they've sold really quickly and people seem to love these. So I've come across a couple more of these old sewing machine bases and I'm getting ready to turn 2 of them into wine stations. So come along with me. I'm going to show you how I do this from start to finish. First, can we appreciate this piece behind me? This is a custom order. I just finished it. It also has a mirror that goes on top, but I'm not going to affix it here in my home. I'm going to do it on site at the customer's house. But this is so gorgeous. This piece dates back to the late 1800s, early 1900s, and it just turned out so fabulous, and I'm so proud of it. And I just wanted to show it off for a real quick second. Okay, let's get back to the project at hand. Let's go! Okay, everyone, we are on the other side of my workshop. This is where all the magic happens. You can already see I have 2 antique, they're not the Singer sewing machine bases. Now, Singer was like the most popular and the first manufacturing company to mass produce these old sewing machines. So this one here is by a manufacturer. The last name is White. So on the base, it says White. This one, I don't see that there's a name on this one. So this one is unknown. I'm sure if I did a Google image reverse search, I could find out who actually made this one. Maybe I'll do that. So what you're going to want to do is get yourself an old Singer sewing machine base. I'm just going to default and keep saying Singer because that's the one I know the most. Find bases like this. But you may ask, Bethany, where am I going to find one? Oh my goodness. Facebook Marketplace has a lot of these relatively on the cheap, and you might find some that are free. And the reason being is the actual sewing machine that sits on top of these bases usually doesn't survive over time. They get separated, they break, just because people move, people let them sit for years and years, and sometimes they just don't survive with the wrought iron base. These bases are so heavy, and that might be another reason why people give them away free or on the cheap. They just don't know what to do with it if they just have the base part. Like, what would you do with this if you weren't very creative? You would think, I want to get rid of it. So this this is a beast. These things are pretty heavy. That's why they make great furniture bases. I've seen a lot of people turn these into tables, benches. People have gotten really creative online. They've taken this whole contraption apart. I saw somebody make a really cool seat out of one. So I stick with making wine stations out of them. I really love making them. They're relatively easy. So you're going to get yourself a base, and then what you're going to do is find yourself some live edge wood. Now this piece here was one piece. It was 6 feet tall, and I simply just cut it in half with my table saw, and I was able to make 2 of them. Now you can use other pieces of wood as well. I've seen people here, you know what, I'm actually going to make something for my front closet. I'm going to show you a piece over here that I've seen people use. Now the 6 feet tall live edge I found at Lowe's, and this was $59, this piece of wood here. I also saw this piece. I'm going to be making a bench out of this. This is teak wood, and it's completely rectangular, and you could also use something like this as well to put on top. The reason personally I don't use this shape, it's just too square for me. I like the live edge. It gives it some character. I think it pairs well better with what I'm trying to create. So I usually make mine with live edge, but you can also find these at Lowe's. So either one would work. It's up to your choosing. Okay, the other thing you're gonna have to purchase are these swanky wine glass holders. I get mine on Amazon. They're relatively cheap. Anything I talk about in this video, I will put links in the video description where you could find these. So I ordered these on Amazon. I've been ordering from the same manufacturer for years and years, and they've worked great. So you're gonna get a pair of these, and we affix these on the bottom like that. And so you can put your wine glasses underneath here. And they hold, I believe, definitely 3 wine glasses, maybe 4, depending on how big your wine glasses are and how much of a lush you are. I prefer a Shiraz. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm not a big drinker. So I used to think I liked Merlot, but I've found that it's got too much of a bite to me. I don't like that big heaviness. So I'm more of a light fruity girl. I don't like white wine. It's too sugary for me, which is surprising to me because I love sugar. I love Sour Patch Kids, but I'm more of a Shiraz. Okay, however you pronounce it, that's the kind of wine I like. So the other thing that you're going to need for this project, you're going to need screws to affix the base to the piece of the wood. And most of these bases have 4 holes, 2 on each side. And I find the size of screw that works best for this. It is a 12 head and it's 1¼ inch. And I get them in gold. I like them to match my wine glass holders, so that's the color that I get. So that's what you'll need material-wise to complete this project. I'm gonna show you on a time-lapse video here. I'm going to debark this live edge. I'm simply gonna take a multi-purpose tool and a small hammer, and I'm just gonna chip away at this bark and get it off both sides of the wood. And then I'm gonna get to sanding, and then I'm gonna get to sealing it, and then I'm gonna apply a high gloss poly. Regarding the base, what I have done in the past is I have cleaned them up. This base over here, I spray painted it in a high gloss black. This one here is already a brown color. I don't want to mess with it. I'm just going to clean it up. I like the way it looks. So depending what you're looking to do, the final look that you're going for, if you're going for like a high glam gloss look, maybe you want to spray paint it. If you're looking to do more of like an aged chippy look, some of these, they can be really chippy, the metal, you can leave them as is. So all up to you. So now I'm going to get started on debarking this live edge. Be prepared, debarking is very messy, so have yourself a shop vac on hand. Okay, you guys, we are back. I have debarked both pieces of the live edge. Now, before I go on to sanding the top of these pieces, I'm going to fill in, I have a few knots, 1, 2, 3 knots on this piece of wood, and 1 knot over here. The thing with knots, usually there's crevices that need to be filled in, and people do this various ways. I like to use like Gorilla epoxy. This little guy right here, I usually get it at Lowe's. It runs about $6. And I will mix this up, and I'll either add, depending on the color of the knot and what I'm trying to achieve, I'll either add these pigments by Mohawk. These are great, but they're a little spendy. So you can either get these colored pigments from Mohawk, and they have them in every shade that you want to match up to any type of wood, grain, color, anything like that. Or if you are not at that level of purchasing Mohawk products, and that's okay. When I first started out, anything I say here on my YouTube channel, don't ever feel pressured that you have to buy a certain tool or a certain product. There's ways to get around it before you get to that level where you're doing a lot of woodworking projects and working with furniture. So if you don't get the Mohawk pigments, you can just keep sawdust. I actually go into my dust extractor and I will pull out with a plastic spoon and dump it in containers here. Here you can see I have a darker colored sawdust, and then here I have a lighter colored. You can see the differences there. And I keep these on hand, and you can mix these with your epoxy and it'll give you a nice natural look. So it's all depending what you're going for with your project. So I'm gonna mix those, and I'm gonna fill the knots in and let them sit for a while because it does need to harden before I can start to sand the top. And then I noticed there's just a few pieces where I'm looking and I'm like, oh, I could clean this up better, debarking it. There's a couple spots. And then I'm gonna show you real quickly here what I'm gonna use for sanders. So I have my FESTOOL. This is my 6-inch orbital sander. I love this. It really gets the job done fast for me. So I'm going to put 120 grit on this, and I will hit the top of both of these live edge pieces. And then to get the edging here along all the edges, I'm going to be using my rectangular sander by FESTOOL. Again, if you don't have sanders, if you just have an orbital, that's okay too. Just take your orbital, just be careful. You're probably gonna have to clamp the piece if you're gonna take the orbital to the edges, because it's really gonna make your piece of wood move. So make sure you have that in a sturdy spot so you're being safe. I wish I had a wood planer. Dear Santa, that is on my wish list that I need to get down here in my workshop is a wood planer, but they are pretty spendy. And if I had a wood planer, I would bypass all my sanders and just put this live edge, these pieces, through the wood planer and just be done with it. So, you know, you just got to work with what you have, and that's okay. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer. So that's what I'm going to be doing here, and then I'm going to check back with you right before I sand so you can see what that looks like. I'm going to show you guys close up of these knots. So if you've never filled wood knots before, usually in a piece of wood like this, can you see there's a void right here, kind of like a canyon that needs to be filled around this wood knot, definitely on that one. This one just has a little crack area here and a little bit of a void area over there and here. We just want to secure these wood knots because sometimes they can become loose over time and you don't want that happening. This one you can see here, all around this wood knot, there is a gap. So we want to fill that in with that epoxy. Okay, this first one, I'm going to use like a darker colored pigment on this one. I don't need that much, just a little bit. There we go. And then mix that in. You can see how it changed colors. Kind of hard to hold the phone and do it at the same time, so excuse me. So then I'm just going to go over to the wood knot over here, and I'm going to fill it in. And hopefully it'll just look like there was never a void there to begin with. And I'm just going to go around and do that. I'll show to you what it looks like. Okay, here's what the wood knots look like with that dark colored pigment repair. And then there's another one over here. And then I noticed I have a little bit of a crack here. And I'm going to fix that with some very, very light colored pigment that I have that I think I can color match it. This is like my sorcery over here. This stuff's amazing. Here's what the epoxy looks like mixed with sawdust. Kind of looks like applesauce. There you go. Out of sandpaper for my FESTOOL orbital sander, so I had to end up hooking up my Craftsman orbital sander to my FESTOOL dust extractor. It worked, but I was noticing on the epoxy areas it was really gumming up my sandpaper. My epoxy wasn't drying as fast as I would like it to. I think it's because I didn't have the heat on in my basement, but I want to stress this next point. You need to clean after each time you sand over your pieces of wood. I like to use this brush with my dust extractor and just basically sweep it clean from all the dust and debris that may accumulate. Okay everyone, it's time for my favorite part. We are going to be applying the top coat, but first, before I apply any type of poly top coat over natural wood, I always seal it with Zinsser's. It's a wax-free shellac, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's called Seal Coat, and I use this under all of my wood projects. The reason I got introduced to this is because one time I had a nasty case of fisheye on a custom order that I was doing that was throwing me into a panic, and I went on a deep dive on the internet and everybody was recommending wax-free shellac, this seal coat, and it took care of that problem. So now, just to be on the safe side, I use this under all of my clear coat finishes. Absolutely love it. So I'm going to show you how I apply that. I use a 2-inch foam brush with a nylon bootie wrapped around it. That helps alleviate any bubbles that might be created when I drag the foam brush across the surface. What's great about this seal coat, it dries super fast. So after I'm done with one coat, it probably takes like a half hour. I go on the safe side with everything that they recommend on a can, so I usually wait like a half hour, 40 minutes, and then I'll apply the second coat. So what I'm doing with these 2 slabs of live edge, I'm going to be applying the seal coat on the underside of both of these, and I'm only applying the seal coat on the underside. When I flip them over, I'm going to be applying the seal coat, of course, to the top part, and then I'm going to be applying the poly. I will be applying 2 coats of the seal coat on the top and the bottom. So you're going to watch that now in a time-lapse video. Okay everyone, I did the underside of these pieces of wood. I put 2 coats of the seal coat. Now these are the tops, and I have put them vertical instead of horizontal so I can get the edges here. So I'm going to be putting 2 coats of the seal coat on the tops, and then I'll get ready for my favorite part, putting the top coat on in a high gloss. So you're going to watch me again in a time-lapse video put the seal coat on. And again, I use a 2-inch foam brush with a nylon bootie around it. Here we go. Okay guys, it's almost 2 in the morning. Yeah, it's almost 2 in the morning. I am tired. I just got done putting the second coat of seal coat on the top of these fabulous live edge pieces of wood. So it's dried completely here. And I am getting ready to apply General Finishes Gloss Armor Seal. See, I'm tired. I can barely talk, and I'm trying to be quiet. I got people sleeping above me. So Armor Seal, love this stuff by General Finishes. This is my absolutely favorite top coat ever. It goes on so smooth, so easy. So I usually apply 3 coats of this, and I do wait the second coat. If I put a coat on tonight, it's Sunday night, I'll put the next coat on tomorrow night. So I usually wait a full 24 hours. So I'm gonna get started and do that. I think I'm gonna do like a close-up view that you guys can see. I got a new, like, let me show you this real quick. I got a new little selfie camera stick tripod thing, and I want to give it a whirl on like close-up. It's got like a little ring light here, and I want to be able to like do close-up shots of when I'm doing like top coats and stuff to give you a different perspective. So I may try that out here. So again, I'm going to be using a 2-inch foam brush with a nylon bootie wrapped around it, and I'm going to simply apply it just like I did with the seal coat. You guys, here's my new little light that I have up. It's kind of cool. Yeah, see how I can get some like close-up shots here? Okay, this is gonna be cool. All right, so I want to position it so you guys get a look-see. By the way, these slabs of wood are on top of a laundry drying rack thing that's like not the sturdiest. It's meant for clothes, but I use it for my furniture projects. So I'm gonna adjust this so we can get a better shot of what I'm doing, and we'll get filming. All right, y'all, I'm gonna get started. Give you some real-time action here of applying poly. I do my best to be able to talk and apply poly at the same time, but it is a little nerve-wracking. If you have applied top coat before, you know what I'm talking about. This like either makes or breaks your project that you've worked so hard prepping, sanding, if you stained it. This will either screw it up or enhance all your work. So I always do like this bend back type of gymnastics so I can get a look-see if I've missed any areas. But this top coat by General Finishes is my absolute favorite. I have a lot of success with it, and I apply it this way. I know some people do it with a rag. I know some people do it with a sponge. I know some people who do it with a synthetic brush. I prefer a 2-inch foam brush with a nylon bootie around it. It's my jam. It works for me. See, it almost looks like I'm like surfing here. What I'm doing is I'm just looking at and getting that light to hit the top coat so I can see, did I miss a spot? Did I get it? And like I mentioned earlier, I will be applying 3 coats. That's my norm that I do. Now, if I was doing like a kitchen table, something with really, really heavy traffic, I might increase that to 4 or 5 coats. But most everything else, I do 3 coats. As you can see, this is going on super easy, goes fairly quickly. My biggest advice that I could give you with top coats, make sure that you are working in a temperature controlled room. Make sure your humidity is on point. That's usually one of the biggest blunders when it comes to applying top coats, is people don't realize that temperature and humidity are going to affect how the product lays down. It's going to affect how it dries, how it evaporates. So please, please read the back of the can and make sure you are working in ideal temperature and humidity conditions. Oh, there's a spot I missed. You can see I'm almost done with the top of this slab. Gets a little weird here on the edge. Got some different curves. There we go. There's the first coat. I hope this was a different angle, that you find this informative when you can see me apply it really close up and how I do it. Okay, here is the first coat of General Finishes Armor Seal in the high gloss. Loving it. It went on like glass. Again, I'm going to be applying multiple coats Very happy with how this first coat went on, and I cannot wait to get these pieces of wood on top of the old sewing machine bases and turning these into wine stations. Okay, here's what they look like, all shined up and looking gorgeous. I just have them sitting on top of the sewing machine bases, but I wanted to give you a couple close-up shots so you can see what they look like with 3 coats of that high gloss poly. To attach the wine glass holders and the wood pieces to the sewing machine bases, these are the materials that you will be needing to achieve that. In this next time-lapse video, you're watching me measure each side of the live edge wood on top of the sewing machine base. I got it around to be like 6 3/4 inch on each side, and then I will mark it underneath it where I need to secure it to this sewing machine base. And I just use a marker, that's what I use, and then I'm going to flip it upside down and I'm going to drill the pilot holes. I like to wrap green frog tape around my drill bit, that way I know I'm being safe and not going through the wood. I also shop vac after I drill all my pilot holes. So this next part, I will secure the piece of wood on the sewing machine base with just 2 screws. What I'm doing is I'm just making sure it doesn't move, because now I'm going to measure where the wine glass holders need to be affixed on either side of the piece of wood. So I don't want that wood moving. That's why I only put 2 screws in. And the next part is just measure, measure, measure. I measure things like 3 or 4 times because I'm just a fanatic. That's just the way I am. And I'm going to flip this piece upside down and I'm going to drill the holes for the wine glass holders. Once again, I will wrap green frog tape around my drill bit. That way I know I'm being safe and not drilling through the piece of wood. Then I also shop vac all of the debris that comes up when I drill holes. Then I simply screw in each wine glass holder on each side. I get these wine glass holders off of Amazon, and I will put the link underneath the video description in case you would like to order some. Can you guide me like I'm going through a car wash?
What does that mean?
This way, this way. And here are the wine stations all staged and looking beautiful. I am really happy with how these turned out. If you guys like this project, please leave an uplifting comment underneath this video. I truly appreciate it. That concludes this tutorial on how I made some really funky, unique wine stations out of old sewing machine bases. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment. If you have any questions on how I did this and need further explanation, please leave it in the comment section. I'm pretty good with replying to questions and comments, and we will see you guys soon. I just brought my little dog down here. It's 2 in the morning on Black Friday, and I have to be up at 5. Actually, I don't even think I'm gonna sleep. My daughter wants to go to Kohl's, so we're gonna head out really soon. But I brought down Biscuit. We always do a sign off with one of my dogs, and I'm gonna do it with Biscuit. Does he look cute? He has his little Santa suit on. He posed for some pictures. I'll post it here. So until we see you guys again, I'm saying toodaloo. So is Biscuit. Toodaloo from Madeline Jean Antiques and Restoration. Bye, guys.